good. We did everything we could, man, with COVID, circumstances, where I had it at one point. A couple of kids had it. So it was something that we couldn't do anything about it. I almost wish that, we even pushed our season back to like mid-December. And to me, I would have rather just, let's go and wait till January and then, get to it and go from there. But, my kids got to play a little bit. So I would like to play more, but they got to play. In the game, we lost in first round districts, man. I mean, we dogfight. We went in, we up two, gave up a layup, we in overtime, and we split with Pryor. Hats off to Pryor, they won it fair and square with nothing about it. Our timing was off offensively. We just didn't get a chance to do what we expected to do this season. But it's a blessing still for those kids to be able to play and for us to be able to stand on the sideline. So I can't really complain about it, man. Although I would like to be playing right now.
but talk about the rhythm though, because my thing is that, we plan as coaches trying to come up with a fall schedule, first of all, a summer schedule, then a fall schedule, trying to, have something as far as on a regular basis when it pertains to like a conditioning. So how did you guys navigate that? So you just automatically start with conditioning right at the end of December or January?
You know what? What we did, man, I tried various ways of first of all, basketball, it's a lot of conditioning, it's all about getting your body ready, your mind ready. But the mind was more important to me for our kids to stay sharp. So we quarantined a couple times this year. The first time it was about conditioning, and we had played, and then we quarantined for 2 weeks after our first game. So we get back, it was strictly about, let's get our body together, so I'm sending workouts for the kids to do, more core conditioning or whatever. And you can do these things in your room or whatever. I actually got a workout from the Portland Trailblazers that they sent me. Was like, man, this is what we're doing with our guys. This is what we did over during the quarantine. So this would be something good. It's basic. You don't need no weights. It's just strictly body weight. So I had that, and I even shared it to some other guys in the area who, was looking for things to do while the kids was on quarantine. The second quarantine, man, it was about the mental aspect. So what we did as a team was say, you know what, let's watch games together. We got on our Zooms. Sent them different things that I wanted them to focus on in terms of we made mock scouting reports for every game that we watched. Had the kids watch it, follow our scouting report. What could we do? What would we do against this team? What could we do? What would we do differently than what the teams that's actually playing if we were playing against this XYZ, whatever it was? So that kept us sharp because I was impressed when we got back, our kids' language changed. Now, we hadn't been playing, but mentally, we were locked into what we were trying to do and get accomplished. Even still, our first couple of games back from this past quarantine, we didn't have everybody, but I was able to I had JV kids. I had them JV and varsity all on the Zoom. Let's watch basketball. And immediately when the game over with, we in our group chat talking. Hour after we sat down, everybody eating, we're talking about this is the thing we do. I was asking, doing Q&A with the guys, let them ask me questions, what I would do in certain instances. Built a lot of morale with our team, because a lot of times, how we are as coaches, we're so busy trying to put the game plan together and do everything else. How can we condition them? But we forget we have to condition their mind and think basketball like we do. Right. Because our minds is, you talking about 2 and 3 plays ahead. I'm 4 and 5 days ahead versus plays. So it worked out well, but rhythm wise, shooting, if you're a shooter, you're going to shoot. It's like, and I hate to say it's like riding a bike, but once you catch that, you see one go through the hoop, then it's like, okay, let me get going. But then that breathing, so then it was pace. We did a lot of, when we first got back, man, we did a lot of just walking through everything instead of just going and tiring them out. Because, when kids get tired, their mind goes. Right. That's the first thing they go is the mind. So just trying to be strategic, man, and being resourceful. Not trying to figure it out on my own and stressing myself out. Let me call some people. Like you said, you're reaching out to people to sharpen iron sharpens iron. So I'm just calling people to see what they're doing. So I ain't got the playbook for it, but at least I'm trying,
But you one of the first coaches that I didn't talk to that actually just talked about maybe just slowing it down, walking through things and just being just the cerebral part of just the coaching, and then getting the kids to understand that it's levels, higher levels of thinking to basketball. Like, once, and that's how we able to at our age, if we go out and we play a pickup game, we gonna know how to play no matter what go out there, because athleticism is probably gone, but we can think the game and can understand just how simple basketball is, but at the same time on a higher level of thinking. How did you develop that? Is that something, because you played for two legendary coaches and coaches in high school and Charlie Spoonhour in college. How did you develop that, as far as, did that something that happened early, or you just developed that just over your years of coaching and just being around the game?
Matt, for me, to first of all, to even get into coaching basketball, BT, I only got in it to give back. So when I was coming up with the philosophy of what I wanted to be as a coach, I had to really sit down and look at myself as a player. Okay, do I want to do? Kids are not going to be able to do what I did as a player, so I got to remember that. That's number one. Number two, I picked my high school coach's his brain, and Coach Spoonhour, rest in peace, his brain before he passed. And then after I talked to Spoonhour, and I went down to Jay Spoon, his son, who I really love playing for. I went to Kelvin Lee and talked to him, just because those guys knew me as a player, to really get, okay, Frazier, who were you as a player? Well, I was a defensive guy, but I could score, but I had to play a role coming into college. So, McFerrin, Coach McFerrin, man, that dude, man, he's been the biggest blessing for me, because he's still doing it, and to have those conversations with him was to pick his brain on what he wanted. His mindset was, well, I didn't care what y'all did offensively, because I knew y'all were talented. So I'm not going to work on your offense. It's hard to get guys to play defense. So that was a model. The second model was the strategic plans I had defensively, what comes from Coach Spoonhour, because Spoonhour would come into a game. We might have a different game plan, every single day. It's never going to be the same. So the gimmick zones, he taught us the amoeba defense, all that stuff. So I took little things from here, little things from there. I remember Coach Lee, when he was doing his camps at Chaminade, I would go over there and he had all these, who do you play for, Gene Iba and all them. Right. I'm going through all this. I'm 20, 21, 22 years old. I'm in his office. Every break I got, I'm just going through film, just looking at film. And then I really started studying like Izzo. I started studying Izzo because of the toughness of the game. I liked Jerry Tarkanian because of what he taught, what he let his guys do athletically. So it was a mixture of everything. And then I can't forget the legends. Rich Gray, Ron Golden, Roy Pierce put the stamp of approval on me as a coach, because if it wasn't from them, I probably would have just been old school, because that's what I knew. Rich Gray was probably the most instrumental as a mentor, as a father figure, whatever you want to call it. He was the first person to tell me my style of coaching at the high school level would not work at the elite AAU level, and then fired me the next summer because he wanted me to see the game differently. It took me to take that firing from the Eagles, 2 years off, to come back and really start looking at, well, I can't coach this kid as hard. I can't be in his face. I can't push him. I need to know what makes him tick. So during that process, I had a kid, Bryan Allen, who played for me. And that's when I really started to practice. Bryan was a junior or senior. It was for our first state championship. I used to get on Bryan, and he would just kind of, go into the shell. And it was him. Rich Gray told me first. And then Bryan's daddy was like, Pat, he says, Frazier, all you got to do is just talk to him, pull him to the side and talk to him. He can't take it in front of everybody else. And I was like, man, I've been doing this wrong. So I go and I talk to BA, like, hey, man, you need to pick it up. Whatever I got to say to you, I'm going to say it right here. And then I got you, Frazier. That was it. And so I started figuring out how to approach my kids differently. I'm going to push everybody, but I know how to come to you on the side and be like, hey, I need you, and they feel it, and they're going to go through a brick wall for me. So that's kind of, in short, how it all came into what I call organized chaos as a coach, you know.
Yeah, no, and then talk about just as far as just like you got a rich family history as far
Mm-hmm.
as playing down in Charleston. How was it like growing up down there as far as like first of all getting a bug to like fall
Mm-hmm.
in love? Was you around? Pretty sure you was around the game as
Mm-hmm.
far as watching all of your family members go through it, but just talk a little bit about that because one thing that I try to always instill in my players is just that
Mm-hmm.
pride level. Like no matter
Right.
what, if you're going to see people are going to have conversations when you get old, what are they going to say about you as far as that pride? Like always have some type of pride about you when you step out here on this court,
Mm-hmm.
so just talk about the pride level and just growing up seeing the game and what you learned from just like going around the game and around Charleston with your
Right.
family members.
Man, Ricky Frazier, uh, who we didn't have a choice. So when you say how it was brutal. So it was a lot of didn't want to go. You ain't got no choice but to go. I remember me and my cousin Tim were the same age. We were probably about 8 or 9 years old, and Ricky this is when he was just kind of finishing up playing. I think he had just finished up overseas, playing in
Mhm.
Turkey, and I fell in love with the game. My grandmother was the biggest fan of basketball. Like it was
Mhm.
basketball and wrestling. I see you doing wrestling, boy. It ain't a wrestling thing. I
Look, man,
don't
look.
know because of that lady, man. So I watch
Right.
you. I'm like, man, every time I see you do it, it reminds me of my grandmother. But she was
Mhm.
the biggest wrestling and basketball fan. So um, we used to spend the night at my grandmother's house on Friday nights. And then that Saturday morning when Ricky was in town, we knew Uncle Ricky was going to be doing, whether he was teaching us how to clean a car or whatever it was going to be. But Ricky used to get up on Saturdays when we was about 8 or 9 years old and go play at every park in the area. When I tell you, he'll go to Sykeston, he'll go to Cape Girardeau, he'll go down to Portageville, he'll go to
Man.
Cairo. I'm talking about, this is a man in his prime. He's going
Mhm.
around court to court playing pickup games. So I'm like, and so it was fun to us, but you don't realize it till later on what he was doing. All he was doing is sharpening himself to get better and better and better and better. So it wasn't, training when nobody was training people how to play basketball back then. You could
Right.
show and practice, but there was no individual training. So going through that and then remembering, looking at still photos, and we'd get the book that all these books are still at my grandparents' house. All the stuff is still there. You look at these still photos, wasn't no video. It was like, dang, Uncle, what was you thinking, man? I had two of them on. He telling you the story, playing against Patrick Ewing and all them. So that's where I got my love for the game. But Ricky took us to a whole new level. Like Ricky would take us bike riding. People get on these bikes. We'll go all through Charleston. We go through all these paths, legs dead. Next thing you know, we get back to the court. All right, we're gonna shoot. Now we're shooting in front of the basket, just shooting, shooting, shooting. All right, left hand, left hand, left. And I'm like, man, is this man gonna stop? So this would go on all day long. And he would just, come on, nephews, let's go. He kept us with him all the time. So
Mhm.
we didn't have a choice. And then the craziest thing about Charleston, you see the movie Varsity Blues and all these movies.
Mhm.
Charleston is that movie because
Right. Yeah.
I leave out of my house, I'll walk down the street. I'm walking about another Blue Jay who won a state championship. I had Cedric Rogers, who's a legend, who lived on one end of the block. I had the Ellis family who lived on another end of the block. They were super athletic. Cedric Rogers was a legend down there too as well. You had Leonard Corbett and all these guys. So walking down that block, you're gonna hear it hey man, we watching. You're gonna be at the
Mhm.
park later on this evening. It's like, man, I just went and played with Ricky all day. So we
Right.
get back 6 o'clock in the evening. The park is jam packed. It's like going to the Rucker or something, So
Mhm.
we're
Yeah.
playing straight basketball. So Ricky threw us in the fire early,
Mhm.
made us. I'm 8 or 9 years old out here playing with grown men. Now I better not shoot, but I
Right.
better play
Right. Nah.
defense.
Nah,
You know
cause
what I'm saying? That's how it was.
cause I had that conversation and me and Earl Austin was just talking about that, how
Mhm.
you felt anointed just getting picked up on one of those teams with playing
Yes.
around some old folks. And
Mhm.
not to say, and we'll talk about this because I mean
Mhm.
you train and you seen NBA players, but just to
Mhm.
have that feeling at a young age, going out there and just playing pickup ball, but not just
Mhm.
playing pickup ball, playing a role
Right.
on a team and just having that like, look, it's pressure, but at the same
Mhm.
time, you getting used to playing around people older than you and not
Right.
just folks your age that you can dominate and not really understand how to play the game, but you playing winning basketball because, like you said, it's jam packed. You lose,
hey,
you might not play no more.
Well, so Charleston had 3 courts,
but ain't nobody trying to play on them, you know.
Hey, you at the big dog court, you lose on that court, you over there like, man, I gotta go because you're gonna be waiting, you know. But then the other thing, you had guys coming from other towns because it wasn't, you know, Charles, you've been down there, you coached again. It ain't easy to win down there, and you can feel the tradition when you walk in the gym. Like, man, and they ain't changing nothing. It's gonna be the way it is. Period. You can build everything around, but you better not touch this gym. This gym is gonna look how it's gonna look. But you know, we had the middle court, then you had the babies down on one end. You know, it was always a game, but he made us play on the big court. You know what I'm saying? Get knocked down, getting beat up. So, and then we get done. This is a crazy thing. The court lights will come on. This is all on a Saturday, 9 to 10 o'clock at night. You're all right, come on. We're going to play one-on-one. Now you finna get beat up after you've already gotten beat up. Now you getting this lesson from him on why he's playing to you. He's talking to you. Not talking bad to you, but he's telling you how to play the game. So that was my baptism in the basketball. You talking about this was every Saturday. Saturday.
So talk about just the transition of from high school to college, because I had a pleasure of playing with one of your teammates, Jeremy Biles, but I played I played with Vinny Biles at Mineral. But just making that transition and having kids nowadays, like just picking schools and making the transition from high school to where you're going to play a role on your high school team, but then having some type of resilience when you go to college and have to understand how to play a role. And sometimes folks might not be able to handle that because they've had success so much, pretty much all their career. So just talk about that and making that transition, and what do you see, and what kind of advice can you give for this next generation of player making that transition from high school to college?
Real quick, my first experience with role playing and as a basketball player and understanding the transition to start with playing with the St. Louis Eagles. Rich Gradham coached the Eagles. You remember back in the day, it was coached as a college type level team. So I played with Jahadi White, Demetrius Alexander, Kish Lewis, and all them guys. We were, big. So I never started a game with the Eagles, but my role was to come off the bench and be a backup point guard. Now, remind you, I've already learned how to be a facilitator and all that as a combo. So I was recruited as a combo guard, but Ricky not Ricky, but Rich Gradham kind of prepared me when, with the AAU summer that I made All American coming off the bench in 92. I made All American coming off the bench. So they were kind of prepping me for a role. So when it came down to looking at schools and all that stuff, it was between Arkansas. They had Nola Richardson. You had Temple, who had Cheney was still there, and what's the name? Tubby Smith was still at Tulsa at the time. I had St. Louis U, and then I had University of Missouri. I didn't want to go to Mizzou because I didn't want to follow my uncle in the footsteps. That was out the question. So, not that it would have been too much. I just didn't feel like that was the place for me.
For you, right?
And so I originally wanted to play for a Black coach, and this is the first time I ever told this story to anybody. So Coach McFerrin called Nola Richardson at Arkansas. So he called John Cheney at Temple. So I went to Temple first. 5 a.m. practices. I'm thinking they're coming to take us to go to breakfast or whatever it was, bro. We was going to a gym to watch practice. I wasn't going there. So that was the end of the question. I love Cheney, but I was like, nah. Then it was Arkansas. Went down to Arkansas, loved everything that they do and that they did, because they still had Scotty Thurman and were, making that run at the time.
That's big time basketball at the highest level at that time right there.
And crazy thing, Corey Beck was my favorite player on that team, the point guard, because I'm like, man, he do everything, but everybody, he was overshined by Scotty Thurman. Me and Scotty still cool, and we still talk. Man, you were never my favorite player. So the
people that may be listening, go Google the Arkansas team of what was it, 90? It had to be 93, 94?
93, 94. Yep, that was right before I was coming in, and I fell in love with the way they played. Is the way we played at Charleston. It was pressure. 40 minutes of hell. I was like, oh yeah, I want to do this. But they were so heavy, top heavy, and it would have been I also visited Alabama. I committed to Alabama. They had a guy by the name of James Hollywood Robinson, point guard, ended up getting drafted by the Trailblazers. I was dumb. Like, I want to be like him. I'm going to Alabama. Alabama calls me and say, you know what? And this is how you learn this. And I'm telling guys this, when you're getting recruited, and this story means a lot because I committed to Alabama on a Sunday morning. My mother was with me. You know, we called like, Coach, we're coming. 2 days later, they call me back and say, Coach, we got some bad news. We got an in-state guard that just committed as well. So we got to take the in-state guard. Now I'm stuck. Like, man, I had already called, you know what I'm saying? But I hadn't called St. Louis University back. That was the only school I hadn't called back yet. Told Alabama what it was. I knew I didn't want to go to Mizzou. And I called Spoonhour. I was like, man, so they brought me up on a visit. Carlos McCauley was still here. You had Clack and them all still there. They were playing well, but they wasn't where St. Louis U was on their way to at the time.
Right.
And after coming on my visit, I was like, man, this home. And it all worked out the way it was supposed to. But I'm saying this in terms of recruiting. When you're picking a school, a lot of times kids get caught in picking the name instead of fit versus where am I going to grow, where I'm going to be a better player at, who's going to help me achieve the goals that I want to as a player. Not because I just want to be a part of the environment and the lights and the cameras and action and all that stuff. You want to pick a school based on where you're going to be a part of what they want to do for the future. You want to make sure you're a piece of that puzzle. Otherwise, you're just going. So the Eagles prepared me for that. So when I got to St. Louis U, they had H. Ballman and all those guys. So I was prepared to come off the bench or do whatever necessary because I already done it. A lot of times kids come in a situation, I ain't starting, man. And, they don't know how to fight for it and work for it. Well, I already done all that previously. The work has already been done. So for me, it's just the easy part of just let me get in here and let me throw my elbows. Let me see where I fit in at. Go work for it. So that's primarily what the recruiting, and it's still like this today, but it's overshadowed because so many people look at what he going to do. Well, everybody's not a Duke player.
Right.
You see how basketball looks today. Everybody's not a Duke player. Kentucky, guys go to Kentucky. Everybody's not a Kentucky player. You have to be a pro when you get there, not making a pro. They don't make pros. You're already a pro before you get there. So, just kind of when you're doing your homework, my advice is really look at what's there. Look at who they're recruiting. Are you that guy or are you better than that guy? And go where you're going to get on the court immediately, not where you got to wait. And if you have to wait, know that there's a process. All right, I got to work on this and understand it and accept that and own it and get better. Bottom line.
Do you think our kids and just seeing just the I'm not going to say just the St. Louis area guys because I mean it's basketball is kind of like you talked about, like everybody, they going all over the place to play. But do you think our kids really understand that, as far as like understanding like, look, you're gonna have to work. Like when you get there, it's just because you got there doesn't mean that you've arrived. That's where it starts. As soon as you get there, you got to start to work. And do you think they kind of get a little bit overwhelmed with the fact of going to some of these schools and not knowing the amount of work that they actually have to put in?
I think it starts before then, because a lot of kids don't know what it means to be uncomfortable. And they don't know how to fight through adversity. If it's not right, the easiest thing for a lot of kids to do, if you've never done it before, is quit. You know what I'm saying? So if you've never been uncomfortable and everything has been laid out for you, then your first instinct is, well, I can't do this, or let me blame the coaches. They don't know what they're doing, or whatever the case. I just think a lot of kids just don't know what it means to be uncomfortable. And the reality of it is, if you don't get uncomfortable right now, then it's going to catch you sooner or later, and it's going to show, and you don't want it to show at the wrong time. That's the thing. So a lot of kids don't know how to be uncomfortable, man.
So and you've been part of the EYBL since the beginning. So talk about what do you expect this year, just coming off just the COVID type of season, and then even with like the class of 2021s, like what will be a successful EYBL season for Bradley Beal Elite going into this season? Because it's everything is kind of up in the air as far as the whole recruiting process. Go ahead.
Well, for us, it is we did a really good job despite the pandemic, man. We had time to rethink as a program, and we were able to sit down, get on calls and Zooms and really not say revamp, but get back to what we used to do. Old school, let's knock them out. Let's grind. Let's go get the best player for our program, not just the best player in the country. So we got away from that a little bit, because you can get, it's easy to get where you get comfortable with saying, what, we got the number one player in this, that, but that don't equate to wins all the time.
Exactly.
So you have to go get players. You need the blue collar guys. We need the Yuri Collins, the guys who gonna grind it out with one shoulder and still gonna be out here playing. Jordan Goodwin, those type guys who just gonna go out there and go get it, just tough blue collar guys. So we were able to get back to that and just find those kids, man. For us, it is to be able to compete at a high level, number one. Number two, make sure our kids get an opportunity to play at the next level, wherever that's going to be, and grind it out and get those scholarships. But from top to bottom, man, I think our program is in a great state right now, because we have recruited well enough to say, okay, we got the pieces we want. We got the people we need. We got the kids that want to play here. We got the kids that want to play for St. Louis-based teams, period. That's it.
No, that's a big point, because I always looked at playing with the Eagles. It was like a badge of honor to make sure that, when you got that call and you was going to be part of that team, like you took that as like, it's pride. Like, again, we talk about pride, just, just having that sense of pride when you step on the court, and no matter what, and then kind of just transitioning that, like we've been blessed to have a lot of McDonald's All Americans. And like I said, you've seen all type of talent. You've seen the pros, you've trained the pros. Just talk about just a little bit, and it's kind of like a two-part question, because we're going to talk about the NBA, but just the McDonald game. All right, the process of them picking the McDonald game and the McDonald selections, is it the same, and why not? If it's not the same of how we saw it coming up?
Well, I think we only saw it. To actually be involved in it, watching Brad, Jason, Caleb, who else was it? Tyler Hansborough,
Darius.
Yes, there you have a bunch of guys going through it. Man, it's a lot of politics, and unfortunate for St. Louis, we don't have the respect from the media and the writers to get that support for our players. So we got to fight for it. So, man, I'm just shooting it to you straight, because a lot of people think that we have the ins and outs. No, we have to learn who we need to talk to find out what our kids need to do to get in that conversation. So I've never put this out there before, but I'm gonna say it now, because what we had to do was, you have to know who has the McDonald's All American votes, what writers are in charge of, pushing in whatever, and they got to vote. So if you get 3 or 4 writers, that's got to vote. Now you got an ear. Now I can reach out to these guys and say, hey, we got Caleb Love, we got Cameron Fletcher, or we got Moses Moody. What do they have to do to get in that top 50? What do you guys need to see from them? Now I'm putting pressure on them to say, you need to get to St. Louis, or you need to get to an event and evaluate these guys a couple times to really get now. If they're not doing it, we can't fight it. You know what I'm saying? But now we're able to go and make that phone call, have that conversation, get some really good, valuable feedback. All right, guys, get in the gym and go work for this. Go work for that. USA Basketball, that's why I really learned it at. So now I'm looking like, instead of being the guy that want to stand in the corner and not, hey man, let me talk to you. Come here, Mr. Daniels, or whoever it is. What do my guys got to do? Not to beg for it. We want to work for it. Now we can prepare those kids. So when I hear the information or get an eval from these guys, hey, this is what they want to see. You need to start working on this, perform this in the game. So when they evaluate you, they can come back and say, well, he did everything, man. He's doing this, doing that. We got 2 kids right now, Nick Smith and Brandon Miller, who are in that conversation. Well, I need to see this kid play with more of a motor. I need to see this kid show that he can facilitate a little bit more. We need top 25 kids. If you're not in the top 20, then you're not going to be in that conversation. You got to be in that top 20. But then you need to be identified by at least 3 or 4 of them guys who got votes. And that's the politics of the game now, that you didn't know at first, because first we got guys killing all over the place. Like, man, why he in the McDonald's All American? But they don't know him. They don't see him.
But then I know I
So
just think that that's valuable that you say that, because you know, from the outside looking in, people, that's the, like you said, the first thing what people would just say is that, okay, they have access to that. Why come we're not able to get more and more people? But you just hit it right on the nose. First of all, you know, you have to get the ear of the people who have those
yeah.
selections, but then on the other side of it, you got to work for it. So when you get that valuable feedback, that constructive criticism, because a lot of times you may not want to hear it, you got to play with more of a motor. Okay, what does that look like? Okay,
Right.
so now
Right.
you still have to do the work once you get this information, and then on top of that, you got to, like you said, you have to do the work after you get that information. You know, so even just piggybacking off of that, and so you have the selection of the McDonald game. So let's talk about, we have Jason Tatum and we got Bradley Beal who made the All-Star game this coming up this Sunday. Talk about that. What do you think about the All-Star game selection and the process? Because I know it's flawed, but I want to hear from you, because you see these guys a lot and you see pros. So talk about that All-Star game selection and that process in the NBA All-Stars.
So, all right, you know basketball. So for me, there's 3 different level of guys. So you got your probably first 10 guys in the league who are superstars, right? You know, those the shoe guys, as we call them. That's your superstars. Then you have your all-stars. The range from 15 to 45 are all-stars. So then we get our other guys that are role players in the league. So there's 3 different tiers of players that we have in the NBA. Superstars are going to get it no matter what. Hell, they ain't got nothing. You know what I'm saying? There's guys that getting votes that probably half of them didn't even play this year, and they're still getting votes for it. You know, I think the fans are great to vote, but I think that needs to be a smaller percentage. But I think the basketball minds have to get involved with the voting in terms of selecting it, because there's no way in the world Brad Beal should have been in there last year. Now he got to go and have a ridiculous year to do it. I'm still upset that not only Brad, but you got what's my man Booker. Booker didn't get, you know what I'm saying? He didn't get, and people said this. Well, he wasn't winning. Okay, but Trae Young was an all-star. Make it make sense. So is it about the fan favorite, or is this really about basketball? I think the process is horrible, how they do it. This year, the fans voted because Brad is putting out, if Brad was only averaging 28, would they still do the same thing? Probably not. But his numbers he's a lead in the league. That can't go unnoticed. You know what I'm saying? Jay is who he is. Jay's been an all-star. You know what I'm saying? When he first walked in the league. But guys like Brad have to work a little bit harder to really show it. Now he's sustaining, because people thought it was, he's just doing it for 10 games. No, man, his brother's killing it. You know, so I don't like the process, man. I think there has to be, the players themselves need to vote. I think the coaches have to vote a little bit, and it wouldn't be a bad idea if they had all the scouts that represent every team vote too as well, because they see more basketball than anybody. You know, and I think they have to do that. But the fans should probably be honest with you, 25% of the vote, to be honest with you.
I hate the fact that the contracts get associated with your all-star performance. So if someone has some type of incentive in the contract to make the all-star team, now you got, like you said, you got the shoe guys, but then you got that selection it can easily be manipulated if that some type of incentive is attached. And now you start to look at, okay, who will represent all of these guys that have that incentive in trying to get on that team, And I just think about just back in the day when we look at people like a Rod Strickland, somebody who could lead the league in assists and never make an all-star team, or something like the Hoopers know who the guys that look tonight. I can't take no night off because he gonna take my lunch. Like I think that needs to be more of a process, like you said, having the coaches and the players have a more of a say in who gets selected in these games,
Right.
So I got a couple more. So, and we were just talking about the shoe guys. I'm gonna just see if you tapped in to what's going on. So we talk about just the sneaker culture. So this week something came out about a VP at Nike having their son, where they had to step down because their son was reselling the sneakers on a second market, What would you say about this? Because like being in the EYBL, like a lot of these exclusive, shoes that come out, and I'm a sneaker guy to a point. I'm not finna stand in line and do all this crazy stuff and to get these shoes. So what do you think needs to happen even on that range? Or do you even have a say in this craziness that go on with the shoe contracts and the shoe stuff?
They can't stop it. There is no way you're gonna stop it, because you have your black market, and some of those shoes are purposely leaked on that market. Dude just got caught. Ain't no other way to put it. So now you want to get all these fake, like, oh, he shouldn't. Man, y'all been doing this, because I was at the barbershop and they were talking about these Hummers, and it's crazy because it all relates: cars, shoes. The players, LeBron probably never drive a K900 Kia. Like, why? Right. And they were talking about the new Hummers coming out. Well, they got LeBron James represent. Well, he had a Hummer in high school. Like, I would use him too to do it. So let me just throw him some keys over here. You take his Hummer and drive around, and you talk about it for us. We're gonna pay you X amount of dollars. So my whole thing with the shoes, and even I was giving you this, forget the players. The EYBL have a select line of shoes, and they, all the color schemes, and they come out with the night when we get shoes, we get them before a lot of them hit the streets, right? Mm-hmm. So our kids get them. A lot of the kids who need money, we ain't supposed to sell them shoes. Some of them kids right on Instagram or Twitter, hey, got these in the DM for 500. Mm-hmm. So if our kids are doing, they already doing them elsewhere. So I just think it's, if I'm selling shoes, I'm selling shoes, period. Mm-hmm. If I can leak them to this market over here and get the money for it, it's all about, can I get the most money for it? So a shoe might be $200 here. You can sell them and give them for $1,000. Why not? It's all about making money.
Especially with our type of kids that, that have access to, some of these, release shoes, they'll be stupid not to be able to make money off of that, because it's just right. If it's there, like I'm not going to, but you see it because, a lot of stuff you go right now online, EYBL stuff is just, crazy. You got Kobe stuff that just sell out, like all this stuff selling out. And I just think it's, as a society, it's kind of crazy that, it's kind of disgusting that we've got to that point to where even our kids can easily manipulate the system in so many different ways on that end, last thing, and I just want your thoughts on this. So Kentucky, the state of Kentucky just passed a Senate bill. I think it's going to go to the House about
fire with that one, boy, man.
So they're going to have high school seniors, or have the possibility of having high school seniors come back for another year. What are your thoughts on that? Do you think Missouri need to adopt something like that, or the kids that know that they're not next level ball players or next level athletes, should they even be trying to do something like this, because you pretty much know where you stand as a player right about now, your senior year?
Yes. First of all, the NCAA is to blame for all of this. That's where we have to start. When they gave guys their extra year, which I understand the pandemic piece, but now you got everybody like an airplane waiting to land. Everybody circling in the air. You got seniors who some have already committed to schools. You've told them, the schools, that they can have their seniors back. These kids don't have nowhere to go because they've already committed to a school. Now you're talking about, all right, we're going to give high school seniors another year. Okay, let's talk about this. Academically, how many classes are they going to have? So we know we got rules here in the state of Missouri. NHFS has their rules. You have to pass 75% of your classes. We don't have this kid take one class. The kid, I thought you have to be in at least a full-time student to play. So if that kid is already graduated, are you going to give him college-ready courses to help him move forward? That way, okay, yeah, I'm waiting, but at least I have this. Or you're going to allow college programs who have kids who are possibly signed to them, or you're going to allow them to give that kid or pay for those kids to have college-ready courses. That way, this is a red shirt year. I'm going to let you play in high school, but you got to take college classes. Like, when I first heard it, this is all I'm thinking. Then I'm like, okay, but how does NHFS manage what they're doing? College technically ain't supposed to touch the kids because they're still in high school. Like, how is it going to work? So Kentucky, you're saying you're going to do this. That means, is it a selected kid or is it all the kids? And I'm almost positive you're talking about selected kids who already have been recruited by or identified as a college recruitable athlete. How are you going to manage this in the state of Kentucky? Or you better off saying this. All right, we didn't get to play a full season. We're going to play our season in June. And then let the kids go and do whatever they want to. But then you still got, I look at, you got Jordan Nesbitt already gone to school. You had another kid, Jaden Jones, already went to Rutgers. Like 2 of our kids that play in our program have gone to school. It's going to be a bad, because if they adopt that rule, then Texas is coming. Then New York is coming. New York didn't get to do nothing. You got for LA still ain't played a game yet, in California. And then you're looking at a state like us now. We're going through our playoffs. So are you going to grant us another season back? Hell, you just say you played 9, I played 12. We combined for 21. Do we get another chance? Probably not. I just think it's going to be too much to manage. Academically, you're not going to make kids take extra courses if they already graduated or whatever, the transcripts. It's too much. Like, in a perfect world, yeah. Now, if there was more access to prep schools, absolutely. But there's, prep schools only looking for a certain amount of guys, and they're in a holding pattern as well, because they're reclassing their kids to keep them in school. So I just think it's too much. Now, if they, like I said, if they're going to give that kid who's a recruitable athlete and already has committed to a school and already signed his letter of intent, by rights, since colleges are already telling kids, okay, we're going to bring back a senior, you should pay for his red shirt year academically, period. If you're going to do that, that's what I think.
Yeah, no, I just think, like you said, that once the NCAA, and then it's like a trickle down effect, because you already know when some of those big schools get some of those top players that say that they're going to come back, or have that transfer portal open for those kids that can come back, then it's going to trickle down and it's going to squeeze that level of player out. And then now it's just kind of like you stuck. And then, like you said, is it going to be just a select few players that, or you're going to grant that to, or you're going to open that up for everybody? Because we both know, man, folks fight hard for those sports, but then let's say you get a parent that's going to be talking about, well, what about my student that didn't participate in concert choir or didn't participate in this? Can he get another year?
Common. It's common.
It's going to be a big mess.
But see, what brings the money in?
Yeah.
And Kentucky Kentucky and Indiana are 2 of the top states in terms of basketball that look at their facilities. They need that money. You got a lot of coaches that coach in Kentucky a lot of coaches that play for Kentucky and Indiana who got players coming up. Well, my son needs his senior year. What are we talking about? He needs this year to get recruited. So it's going to be interesting, man. I can't wait. That right there, when I first heard it, I was driving home. I was like, what? There ain't no way in the world they're going to pull it off.
Man, you dropped some nuggets today, man. I appreciate your time, man. So anything in closing as far as like when the tryouts, what you got coming up? I know you got, is it middle school coming up this week? Like, go ahead. I'll let you pitch everything out.
Man, I got a lot, man, because I need some help on a couple things. So I got middle school tryouts coming up for Brad Beal Elite. That's 7th and 8th grade this weekend. The following weekend, I think we start with our 15U group. All of this is on BradleyBealElite.com. You can go on there and register right now. Our girls program also have tryouts the following weekend. So you can go on, it's all on the website. So you just pull it up, click on tryouts, and you'll see the boys, 15U, 16U, 17U, 14U, and 13U. So you click on that. And then the girls, we only go down to 8th grade. We got a girls event coming up. Our first time ever doing something in honor of really Rich Gray. This was his girls program he had put together. So we're doing something in honor of him. April 3rd be our first shootout. We're not going to do a tournament format. We just want to get some teams in, get a shootout going, and make sure our girls get an opportunity to start their season off right. Lastly, if there's any trainers who are wanting to get involved with NBA pre-draft this summer, I put it out there last year, but if you're seriously about really learning the craft on how to work with NBA guys or potential NBA guys, and you want to be involved with it, get in touch with me. You can email me at CoreyFrazier32 at gmail.com. You can hit me on Instagram at CoreyFrazier32, Twitter, Coach Frazier32, or you can call me. My cell phone is everywhere, 314-780-7102. If you are interested in learning the craft of training at that level and you want to be involved with pre-draft this year, I'm looking for guys to come in and work. I'm only going to take 6 guys to come in and work with me this year to really learn how this thing, but you got to be dedicated from April 15th to June 30th. That's how long you got to be ready to be, morning, noon, and night. So we're looking for at least 6 guys to come in and do it. But want to really work on your craft and want to give back to basketball and want to learn something and take away. So I'm going to pay you. So you got to be on time and be where you need to be.
Man, Coach, I appreciate you, man.
Yes.
For all you do, man. Like I said, this been a platform, man, for all the greats, man, the legends, man, to make sure that you get your roses right now, regardless of what folks say, man. You put it down, on when it comes to St. Louis basketball in the whole, and then now you took it to a national level. So, man, I appreciate, man, all that you've done, man. Appreciate your time. So, man, let me know if I can help in any type of way. So
for sure.
Okay?
We're gonna talk about wrestling one day, man. I know a little something.
Man, nah, I got